screaming. So I run in her room, I pick her up, I'm kind of like holding her, and she's looking over my shoulder, staring into her closet. I'm swinging at it, and I'm like, oh my God. And there was like this ooze thing on the wall, and the same mark was on the Raggedy Ann doll's forehead, but the doll is inside of a plastic bag. And we noticed he's walking down the hill, and his face is bleeding, and I'm like, what now? It was like a tree limb had smacked him in the face, like if someone pulled the tree back and let it go. So I called 911, ambulance came and got him. That was the last thing he remembers. He had died at one point in the ambulance. Every doctor and nurse in that hospital was working on him. And he's like, it was black. That's the gateway to hell, right there. It's on our property. It's here. My name is Jodi Short, and I'm from Illinois. There's been a lot of crazy stuff that's happened throughout my life that I feel like that you'd want to hear, or your listeners or viewers would want to hear. I think I was like 11 or 12, and I had a dream that President Bush, the first Bush, had a heart attack while jogging with his security team. Why, as an 11-year-old, I would even think about that, but whatever. And then like 2 days later, my mom told me that he actually did have a heart attack jogging with his security team. And that was crazy. But like there was another time I had a dream that my rabbit had babies. Didn't even know she was pregnant. Next day I went outside and she had babies, which was crazy. I mean, my brother had a rabbit and we let them play. We just didn't realize that they had hooked up. But anyway, so nothing super significant other than like things like that. My mom had told me she had dreams like premonitions of my brother getting hit by a car when he was a kid. Next day, it happened wearing the same outfit, whatever. So I kind of feel like I've always been in tune with like another realm, so to speak. Things didn't start getting like crazy and directly related to me until I got older. It was like early 2005 in April. I had found out that I was pregnant. And then a month later, I had lost the baby, and then it just kind of sent me into a spiral. I moved away from everybody, and the timing is important. And trust me, this all ties in to, okay. So fast forward, I don't know. I think I was like 26, maybe. I'm not really sure, 25. And I had come home late from work with my friends, and it was probably like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And we're in my living room, and I hear a kid say mommy. And I was like, did I just really hear that? You know, and my girlfriends, I looked at their reaction, and they heard it as well, you know, and I'm like, no way did we just hear that. And then I heard it, we all heard it again. And I'm like, oh my God, did I forget to drop off my son at my mom's house? Like before I went to work, like, so we run in his bedroom. He's not there. There's no one there. It's just us. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it was just a sound that we thought. We just chalked it up to whatever. We just kind of let it go. That was in November. I found out in January that I was pregnant again. There were no problems with the pregnancy, anything. I had a very healthy baby girl. And then when she was about 9 months old, the house that we had moved into, we all were like getting sick, like really sick, like getting pneumonia, like my daughter, my son, and myself. And it was like, I never get sick. They never got sick, you know, but she was a baby, whatever. So I'm in bed one night. I hear like soft knocking on my door. I think it's my son. So I told him to come in. I don't know. It was like the middle of the night. So I tell him, come in. Nothing happens. I tell him, I hear the knocking again. I tell him, come in. Nothing again. I'm like, oh my God. So I get up. As I go to grab the knob, I hear the knocking again. As I open the door, there's no one there. And I'm like, there's no way that what's going on? You know, am I dreaming this? Like, am I crazy? Whatever. Okay, I go back to bed. And then I'm not sure how much time had passed later, but then I wake up to hear my daughter, who was 9 months old. She's screaming, like petrified. This wasn't like she woke up because she was hungry. She was screaming. So I run in her room. I pick her up. I'm kind of like holding her, and she's looking over my shoulder, staring into her closet. And I'm like, well, so I slowly kind of like turn around. I didn't see anything. Calmed her down, whatever. I think I brought her in bed with me or whatever. So the next day I go to see maybe if there's like some clothes or something that she was seeing, because she would not take her eyes off of that closet. And I look around, I don't see anything. I walk into the closet and then I turn around. So like the clothes are behind me and like the door frame is in front of me. And I look up and there's black mold all over the ceiling, like right in that corner. And I'm like, maybe that's why we're all getting sick, and I had gotten really sick. Like I was in the hospital, but I was spiking like 105 fevers. It was really bad anyway. So we're like, okay, we're out of this house. We moved. And then all of a sudden, none of us got sick again. Not like that. So again, nothing had really happened significantly until she was about maybe like 4 or 5. And you have to kind of understand the layout of my house to understand why this makes sense. So you go up the stairs. Immediately to the right is my bedroom. Right in front of you is a wall. So it kind of curves around. It's like a giant letter U, like this. So my room is to the right. Then there's a hallway, bathroom, my son's room. And then parallel to my bedroom door is my daughter's bedroom door. So in my room, the TV, let me see so the TV is on the right wall. So you walk in, the TV's over here. My bed is to the left. It was at night. I was laying on the bed. I was on my stomach and I was looking up watching TV and my door was open. But like, when your door's open, you can see like where the hinges are. You can see like there's a little bit of space, right? So I had just laid her down and she was in like a big girl bed now. So there are no rails or anything. And I hear her coming down the hallway and I'm like, that little turd, like she's out of bed again. And I see through this crack, because now I'm looking up at the TV, door's right here, and I look over and I see like she's wearing a big white shirt and I see long blonde hair. Well, my daughter has long blonde hair. So I see her run by and I'm like, Emma, and I yelled, Emma, get back in bed. Because like once it passed that crack and then it turns to come into my room, I can't see anymore. And then all of a sudden I hear her stomping, running back down the hallway and slams her door. And I'm like, oh no, because she went to bed in like zebra striped like footy pajamas. And I'm like, maybe she had an accident. That's why she was wearing a t-shirt. And she's upset because I just told her to go back to bed. And like she stomped. And so I go down to check on her and her door's open. And I'm like, just how I had left it. And I'm like, what the heck? And I open the door. She's sound asleep in her zebra striped pajamas. And I'm like, what just happened? Like, I know that I heard her. I know I saw her, like clear as day, saw a little girl with blonde hair. So I asked my son, because he was in his room, and I'm like, did you just see Emma run by? And he's like, I didn't see her, but I heard her run by, and then I heard her slam her door. I'm like, okay, so I'm not crazy. There's a little kid in our house, because like scattered throughout this, I would think that I would hear like a kid say mom or mommy, and I just, chalked it up to mom brain, whatever, things like that happen. But this time he heard it. It wasn't in my head. She was still wearing her zebra striped pajamas. There was no white t-shirt. I was like, okay, that was really strange. So then things kind of started clicking in my head. Like I started putting the times together and I'm like, just on a theory, I'm like, had I not lost that baby, I would have had it in November. Well, I conceived my daughter at the end of November. So I'm starting to think, is it because the image that I saw looked just like my daughter, maybe a little bit older, but looked just like my daughter. Like I would have thought it was her, long blonde, kind of curly hair. And then once I started acknowledging these things, then I started paying more attention. Like if I heard mom, but I never felt scared. Like I never was like in fear that I was being haunted, because I figured whatever this is simply doesn't want to cause harm. You know what I mean? Like I never felt any negativity from it. Then there's so many things that happen. I got to kind of pay attention to here. One of my girlfriends, she's totally into paranormal kind of stuff. And she kind of knew about what was going on. And I worked with her, but I was FaceTiming her and I turned my camera around for something. I don't remember what it was, to show her. And as soon as I looked up, I could see like a shadow. And I thought maybe it was like a glare from something. And my friend was like, who's standing in your room? She saw a person. I only saw a shadow, but it wasn't like she saw the reaction on my face. She wasn't looking at me. She was now looking in my room. And I was kind of like, okay, so I didn't just imagine that shadow. She actually saw a person. And I was, it was crazy that we both had seen something. So then I was like, oh, it's probably my little girl, whatever, kind of laughed it off. A short time after that, I was in bed and I heard, like, again, you have to understand the setup of my bedroom. So my bed is here and there's a window with curtains that close to my left. Well, I felt someone looking at me. Like I could feel that there was somebody there. So I look over And I just kind of see the outline, and I thought it was my daughter, and I thought maybe she had a bad dream, and I'm like, just get in bed with me. And I could feel the bed push down, thinking that, because my bed's kind of high, and I feel it like push down like she's trying to get in bed with me. And I went to reach out to grab her to pull her into my bed, and there was nothing there. And it like gives me goosebumps even talking about it. So I reach out and I'm like, oh my God. And all of a sudden it like, you could see like, because there was a tiny bit of light coming through the curtain. So you could kind of see an outline. Well, then it was like as if it zipped right in front of where the two curtains meet. And I could see a perfect outline of like a kid. I know when I tell people, they think I'm insane. I'm like, it literally gives me goosebumps talking about it. And I was like, oh my God, there's someone in my room. And I'm like freaking out. And then all of a sudden it like zips to the end of the bed. And I can see it at the end. Like, I'm not even joking. I literally have goosebumps. And I could see it and I'm like, oh, and now I'm scared. Now I'm freaked out. I literally thought that maybe someone who was very short broke into my house. And like, I'm swinging at it. And I'm like, there's nothing there. And I'm like, oh my God, there's someone in my house. And then it was gone. That was it. And then it took me quite a while to go back to sleep because I was like, I know that just happened. I wasn't half dreaming. This wasn't, because I even rubbed my eyes, and that's when it like zipped to the end of my bed and was just standing at the end of my bed, and I freaked out. So it was, I don't know how much time later, but I was at work now with my friend who was the paranormal, the one who saw the image, and we do nails. And she works like across from me. And so I had a new client come in, and I was telling my girlfriend about what had happened. And as I'm doing this woman's nails, I've never met her before. She was a new client. My social media is completely private. There's no way and why would you look up someone that you're going to go get your nails done by? It was like totally random that she came to me, right? So I'm telling my girlfriend what happened. I'm doing this woman's nails. And as I finish the story, the woman looks at me and she goes, she knows that she scared you, so she attached herself to a big brown dog with floppy ears. I had a big fat chocolate lab. There's no way this woman would have known that I had a big brown dog with floppy ears. She's like, and I'm like, wait a minute. Like, what? So now obviously my attention goes to her, and I'm like, what are you talking? She's like, she's a medium. But that's like not what she like, it's not like her job or anything, that's just, she's like, I've always had an ability to like read people, see things, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, there's no way that she would have known that I had a big brown dog with floppy ears. So I was like, oh, wow. So because I hadn't heard anything or seen anything for a while. I think maybe that's how we got on the topic of it, because maybe my girlfriend asked me and I'm like, well, I haven't seen anything or heard her. Like, it's been a while. And then when my client said that, it was like, well, that would make sense because I haven't seen. There's always little things that you'd hear or kind of catch out of the corner of your eye, like those kind of things, but nothing like really definitive. And then it was from that point on that it was pretty quiet. And then COVID hit. Obviously, our salon shut down. And there were like a few clients that I did in my house, just people that I trusted, that I knew, that were like friends of mine. And she had become like this client that was the medium. She had become a friend of mine. So I was doing her nails in my house. And the whole time I'm doing her nails, like I can kind of see, like, I think my lab is laying on the floor beside me. Cause you can like objects that are normally there, you see them out of the corner of your eye, but you don't really pay attention to it. Right. And so I'm doing her nails and she just gets really quiet. And I'm like, what just happened? Don't do that. She looks up and she goes, she's here. And I'm like, who? And she's like, the little girl is here. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, she's standing to my left. And she's been standing to my left. Now, to her left is my right, where I thought my dog was. And I like kind of lean over and realize my dog's not there. So I was kind of seeing the shadow, not realizing it. And she goes, and then she like pauses for a second again. And she goes, she's really curious about the girl with bright red hair who was here yesterday or something like that. And I'm like fire engine red hair. I had just done a client, a friend of mine, the day before who had bright red fire engine hair. Again, there's no way that this client would have known that I had a woman here with bright red hair. And it's not like she's like, oh, she had brown hair. It was like, she was very specific. And again, because it was COVID, no one was like advertising that they were doing nails in their house. You know what I mean? Like it was because it was COVID. And it just kind of gave me the chills. Cause again, there's no way she would have known that. And it's interesting because she had told me that she attached herself to my dog, and I thought my dog was laying there that whole time. And according to her, it was her standing there, not my dog. And it seemed like that was kind of the last big thing that really happened with her that I had seen or heard. And I was like, okay, I want her to know that I'm not afraid of her. I don't want her to think that she has to keep attached to my dog if that's not what she wants to do. You know, I know it sounds insane, but so my girlfriend, who's the parent who is all into paranormal stuff, she had come over, and we're like, okay, how do we like communicate with her without like using the Ouija board or like actually asking her to like reveal herself or whatever. So we all kind of just sat in my room. There were 5 of us. We just sat in a circle. We put a candle in the middle of the floor, and we were just talking. We weren't even mentioning her. We weren't saying anything. And now my son was there, and he's totally non-believer. Stuff doesn't exist. It's crazy, whatever. Well, he's sitting to my right, and it went me, his girlfriend, and then him. And then there was a big space, and then my friend. And we're all just sitting there talking, and he kind of jumps and like laughs, and he's like, yeah, real funny. And we're like, what? And he goes, you just pulled on my shirt. I'm like, who just pulled on your shirt? He's like, someone tugged the right side of my shirt. Now, mind you, there's a huge gap in between where he was sitting and my friend was sitting to his right. There's no way she could have leaned over and grabbed his shirt without anyone noticing. And he got really freaked out because he does not believe in that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to take that as a sign that she's still around. She just is keeping her distance. And I kind of feel like that was her last, like, hey, I'm here. And then maybe has kind of gone into like hiding, so to speak. But then, you know, I relate it to like, if it is her, like I see my daughter growing up. My daughter's now going to be 19 in a few months. And I'm like, okay, maybe now that we acknowledged her, we're aware that she's here. We're aware she's around. Maybe that was like her unfinished business. And now she's been able to kind of pass on. So then that was pretty much the last thing that had happened with her was that tug on the shirt. That night that happened, my friend and her daughter, because I've been close friends with them forever. And she's like, every time I come over here, I have a really bad feeling near your closet. And I'm like, that's weird. Because like they had thought that they had heard something coming from the closet or something. Every time they would come over, there was always something. They never wanted to be in my room by my closet. It gave them the creeps. So we're like, well, let's go investigate. Let's see. And this was just so happened to be the same night. And we looked up, like we were looking around my closet, and I have a Raggedy Ann doll in there, which is like, I'm having a brain fart, but that movie. But I was like, yeah, I've had these Raggedy Ann dolls since I was little. And I moved the doll out of the way, and there was like this ooze, I guess, on the wall. I have pictures of it. I'll send them to you. But it was like this thing on the wall, and the same mark was on the Raggedy Ann doll's forehead, but the doll is inside of a plastic bag. So it's like there's a barrier between the doll and whatever is on the wall. So it's not like there was something on the wall and it transferred to the doll's head or either way. But I mean, that's totally separate from the little girl thing. But that was just something I thought would be worth mentioning because I have a picture of it. I'll send it to you. I meant to send it to you before this, but she's like, that's why. That's the crazy thing. That's why I don't like your closet. I'm like, well, who likes a Raggedy Ann doll, first of all? But, you know, because it's, you know, sentimental, I can't get rid of it. But, you know, that was kind of the story with the little girl. And then our property is a whole nother ball game. Maybe that's just me in my head, though, with that thing. But so we have family in Kentucky, and we've been going there on and off for the last 20 years. We had an opportunity that presented itself. There was a lot of acreage that was for sale, and it was basically a deal that we could not pass up. I mean, I think originally it was put on the market for over $1 million, and we got it for like a fraction of that. I'm like, why? But when we went to go, since the day we stepped on that property, something has happened every single time, like not horrific where it's jail or hospital, but significant enough that it would slow us down. The very first time we went to see it, because there's 3 cabins on the property, we had walked into the 3rd cabin, And my nephew because they came with, he tripped over a rug that had been sitting outside. Mind you, this property has been vacant for years. And he tripped on a rug. Unfortunately, he was the last one in. So we were all in this little 1-bedroom cabin. And all of a sudden we see like what we think are flies everywhere because they were tiny little, and we all start getting stung. I'm like, these are some kind of bee. Like, so we're running around. It's super chaotic. You just see all this like swarm. And I'm like, there's gotta be a back door. Where's the back door? So we run out the door. Everyone's getting stung. We ran out of that cabin, ran all the way down to the front of the property, which is about 2 football field length. And we're running and we're still getting stung as we're running. Like they were getting us through our jeans, through our clothes. And that is how I found out I was allergic to bees. Yeah, my brother was like deathly allergic to bees, but he grew out of it. And apparently, according to my doctor, she said, when you have a sibling that's allergic and they grow out of it, it's likely that you could grow into it, but you're never going to grow out of it. I'm like, great, awesome. So I just had like welts and whatever. I mean, it wasn't like I was bruised where they stung me. And they're the small, I still cannot identify them. They're the smallest little things. They look like flies. There's no yellow on them, whatever. So after that, we purchased the property. Just there were things that were happening anytime we'd go down there, like flat. Can't even tell you how many flat tires that we had going down there, which the only time that's ever happened is going to that property. I don't want to shed like bad light on our property because we're turning it into a wedding venue. And I'm like, I don't know if I'd want to get married there. But it does kind of turn into like a positive thing. Because what I've come to realize that all these things that have happened have slowed us down from leaving. For example, there was a tornado that had ripped through Indiana a couple years ago in the summer, did a lot of damage. Had we left the day we were supposed to leave, we would have drove right into that tornado at that time. Because, I mean, we've made this trip so many times, we know where we're at what time. Like, we would have gone right into that tornado. There was another situation where the most recent one where basically Kentucky had frozen over, which doesn't happen. And especially not where we're at. Like, they don't get snow like I do here in Chicago. And it ended up keeping us there for an extra 3 days. Because of all the ice, it knocked out trees, which knocked down power lines. We had no power, no heat, no anything for like 2 or 3 days. These things have slowed us down, essentially, is what, like, prior to the ice thing, property was set on fire. And I don't mean to laugh because it's not funny, but it's funny only because, my husband calls me Wix, worst case scenario, because that's where my brain goes. Like, if I see something, my brain is like, oh my God, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. He had thrown a wet drop cloth into like a burn barrel. As I'm walking past the burn barrel, I see like a piece of the cloth is like hanging out of it. Not a lot. It was just smoking. There was no fire at that point. But I walk by the burn barrel and I'm like, that's going to fall. That's going to catch that leaf on fire. That leaf is going to catch the whole mountain on fire. So I walk down the property, don't think anything of it. 20 minutes later, we all look up and it's just smoke. And I was like, oh, the one time I should have said something, I didn't. Luckily, no structures were damaged. It just burned leaves. It didn't burn hot enough to like burn any of the forest down. And it was like a total of 20 acres got burned, like 10 of ours, 10 of someone else's. But the forestry department came out and they did an amazing job with bulldozers and leaf blowers because they're like, you can't put this out. You have to like cut it off. The fire department, like initially we called the fire department. It took them like 45 minutes to get out there. And they're just like kind of walking up the hill. And I'm like, what are you doing? There's a fire, run. And they're just like totally casual. And they're like, this kind of stuff happens a lot. People usually do it on purpose to get rid of all the leaves and stuff. And I'm like, this is not on purpose. We're stretching hoses and just spraying and just, but there's this one spot on the property where things seem to happen around. And I didn't catch it until like looking back at the fire. There was this one tree stump that was maybe 2 feet high, completely hollowed out. It was dead. It had been dead for God only knows how long, but that had initially caught on fire. We put it out. Half an hour later or so, it was on fire again. Now, mind you, everything else was put out. The fire had moved way beyond that tree stump. We put it out again. Fire department put it out. Came back again. It was smoldering again. I was like, why does this tree stump keep catching on fire? Like, what is happening? Well, there are natural gas lines or natural gas in the mountains, in the Appalachian Mountains. And I thought maybe there's some gas running through there, but kind of ruled that out quickly because you would smell it. Like when you know there's an area where there's gas, you can smell it in a car driving past and you'll keep smelling it for like 10 minutes. So it's very obvious. That wasn't the case. And it still just kept smoldering. I'm like, that's the gateway to hell right there. It's on our property. It's here. That's why all this stuff happens. There's a lot of like other like little things that kind of happen. You know, we were riding dirt bikes and my husband went to go up a hill and my daughter and I were following him. And all of a sudden he got a little bit ahead of us and we noticed he's walking down the hill and his face is bleeding. And I'm like, what now? And he said, as he went up to go up the hill, which he had done previously, it was like a tree limb had smacked him in the face. Like if someone pulled the tree back and let it go and hit him in the face. And I'm like, that's odd. And when we went walking back up there, because we could see where the dirt bike was laying, there was no tree branch. Like, I don't know what's clotheslined him, but something hit him in the face. And it was just like another little thing that's kind of adding up to. So fast forward to like this previous, like I think a few months ago, we had found out totally by chance that there's a cemetery on our property. It reminded me of Poltergeist when they're like, you moved the headstones, but you left the bodies. But in that area, it's common for people to kind of bury their family members on their property. It's just something that they do. So it was like, I felt horrible because I'm like, we've been running up and down this area where there's potentially a family buried. And it was totally by chance. My husband's cousin found it. She was pulling up Google Maps or something or an app. And she had pulled that app up several times and this has never popped up. But the last time she had pulled up, it showed the name and then cemetery on our property. And I was like, I wasn't aware of that. So whether the people are still there or not, it's still being like, if you Google it, you'll see that that's where the cemetery is. And I'm like, there's no headstones or anything. So we don't know where their bodies actually are. So the last time we went there, I went there and I just said a prayer and I said, we will respect your land. We will respect you. Like, you know, I apologized for just kind of did this big spiel. And I'm like, we could burn sage there. We would need dump trucks full of sage. I figured maybe praying, asking for their blessing to now reside here. And nothing has happened since I did that. Like, I'm ready to like have like a preacher come out and bless the land. But ever since I was by myself, no one was around, just kind of said a prayer. And then it's been clear ever since. I was like, this house is clear, you know? But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of that. And I thought maybe, because I kind of thought it was like an evil thing coming from the property, but I was like, it's not though, because anything that's happened hasn't been really significant to where anyone has, like I said, jail or hospital, none of those have happened, but has slowed us down from leaving, you know, when we would have left and maybe prevented an accident or whatever. There actually was one thing that I completely missed for the property. It was before this happened. There's like, you can see the stars down there, like perfectly. I mean, they're amazing. There's no, you know, noise pollution. Light pollution. There's no pollution. And there were these stars that we were looking at. We're like, let's go up by the cabins where it's darker, you know? And it was my husband, my daughter, and I, and we were standing there, and I have 2 schnauzers. Well, when you turn the lights off, you can't even see your hand. It's dark. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. It's pitch black. And I hear my dogs kind of low growling, and they're on leashes. And I'm like, okay, there's bears out here. So what are they growling at? And I flashed the light in the direction that they were growling, and there's nothing there, but they're pulling on their leashes, just like a low growl. And I'm like, there might be something over there. And we're all paying attention to the stars. Well, I wasn't, they were. I was trying to figure out what was going on over here. And all of a sudden you can hear when a rain coming, like wind, you could hear like a big gust of wind coming. And I'm like, or rain. And I'm like, okay, a big storm is coming in. Maybe that's what they were hearing. And then it was like, it was getting louder and louder. And then it was like nothing. And when I shine the lights into the trees weren't moving at all either. So I'm like, if that was wind or rain, the trees would be moving. So then it was like, as it got closer, maybe 20 feet away, it completely stopped. No noise. And I'm like, that was odd. Then all of a sudden it starts coming forward at us. Same thing, sounded like rain, sounded like wind, like it was going to be a storm. And it's rushing at us. And it's like, it was like an aggressive wind, if that makes sense. And then I'm getting freaked out. And then same thing, maybe 10, 20 feet away, it stops. I was like, what is going on? So then it starts coming from the left. Now, to our left is mountain. There's no way there was like a gust of wind coming from somewhere when there's a mountain wall right there. But this time it was way more like aggressive. Like it was coming fast, coming loud. And I'm like, and same thing, stopped. I was like, I'm out of here. You guys can look at the stars. I'm out of here. I'm gone. Bye. I left, went back into the camper, and I was like, I'm done. I'm not waiting to find out what happens. So I've heard about Appalachia. There's stories, like I don't want to be the one to find out. So yeah, that in a nutshell has pretty much been the gist of all these things that have happened. And now watch, because I started talking about this, something's going to happen with this little girl or whatever. The whole thing with the recorder, that was totally random. That was, did you hear the video or the audio, I should say?
Yeah, that was, you sent that to me, I want to say it was like back in the fall. I don't know if I've watched it since, at least that I can remember, but I kind of vaguely remember the clip where you sent it to me and you're like, whoa, check this out. And I was like,
yeah, it was,
this is weird.
Well, yeah. And like, cause again, I'm thinking it's a little girl haunting me, but nothing has happened in years. And so I'm like, I'm going to buy a ghost recorder it was more for the property when we went down there. And I just hit record, set it down. My daughter and I were doing our nails. And then it was like, I don't know how much later. I'm like, let's listen back and see if we can hear anything. And I played it back. I didn't hear it at first. My daughter heard it. And I'm like, well, I need to record it with my phone so that I can like rewind. Cause on the actual recorder, you have to listen to the whole thing over again. Like, I don't know how it's new. I don't know how to like fast forward or whatever. So I recorded it with my phone, and you can hear clear as day, like a man say, "Hey, help me." And I'm like, that was odd, but nothing has happened before or since that had anything to do with like a man. Unless I'm just not paying attention. Maybe I just close that off and I'm like, okay, gotta put my focus somewhere else, because this little girl is gone. And if you turn it all the way up, you can clearly hear someone say that. Like, I don't know if it's maybe the marketing with the ghost recorder, but it's not like marketed as a ghost recorder, but people use it as one. I'm like, maybe it makes its own sounds. I don't know. I'm like, but I definitely heard something. I have other recordings on it, but I'm too afraid to listen to it. Not to mention, I didn't even hear it. My daughter caught it. I didn't even catch it. She did. So maybe unless I listen with my headphones on, but other than that, I can't. I didn't even catch it. So there's probably tons of stuff on there that I just haven't heard. I just have to have her listen to it. It was like a perfect silhouette of, like, you could just see like the top of the head come down, and then you can like perfectly see like the shoulders like kind of go down. I could see their head. That was really round, like really, and then you can kind of see hair, but no colors. Like it was just like a silhouette. And then when it shifted away from, because there's only maybe 2 feet between my bed and the wall. So when it like shifted, I don't know if I can explain. Like it kind of, when I first saw it was a solid black silhouette. When it moved, it kind of like grayed out and then went solid black again, if that makes sense. Like it was like almost like a mist had kind of like moved over and then was black again. And then when I freaked out and started swinging, it was just gone. And then right at the end of my bed, just standing there right at the end of my bed, like kind of waiting for me to realize that it wasn't a man trying to break into my house. And then like I start totally panicking, and then it was gone. And then nothing, hadn't heard anything, hadn't seen anything, haven't felt anything. Like, you know, you feel like the stereotypical like ghost things. You'll feel like a cold breeze when there shouldn't be a cold breeze, you know? So things like that. Yeah. you'll get weird feelings, and well, I can't say that you would, but you know what I mean? So it would happen so fast. I didn't ever make out any features. It was just like someone put a black cardboard cutout right in front of my curtain, like actually kind of like this, like you can kind of see the light through there. And so it brought in enough light to where I could see that there was something standing in front of it. There was a void in front of the light. So there's definitely zero light coming through wherever that was standing.
Do you believe that whatever that being or entity was responsible for the myriad of things that you'd experienced up until that point?
Yeah, I do. Because I never felt afraid. Other than that moment, there was never, maybe just because my own psyche just chalked it up to, it's just your baby that you lost and she wants to let you know she's here. Maybe there was some bitterness because the month that she would have been born, I conceived my daughter. And like when I did get pregnant with this, I knew that it was going to be a girl. Like there was never, when I got pregnant with her, well, I can't say her for sure because I don't know for sure, but in April or March when I found out I was pregnant, there was never a doubt in my mind that it was a girl. I like knew that it was a girl. When I got pregnant with my son, I knew there's never a doubt in my mind. I knew it was a boy. I just did. And then when I got pregnant with my daughter that I did have, same thing. There was never a doubt in my mind that it was a girl. And then to now see a little girl with long blonde hair who looks just like my daughter, I'm like, that has to be what it is. And again, I never felt afraid. I never felt scared. And even my friend who was there and kind of witnessed these things with me, she never felt afraid of it. Like it just didn't give off that feeling, but who knows, maybe it could have been somebody posing to be her, but it went on for so many years. Like this is a span of, we're talking like 13 years that this was going on. So I do feel like when I would hear a kid say mommy or mom, that it was her. Nothing has happened. It kind of bums me out though, because I'm like, maybe because she's gotten older that she hasn't been around. But like I said, because we're talking, anytime I would talk about it, something would happen. And maybe because I haven't talked about it in so long, maybe that's why nothing has happened. But now if it does, I'll let you know, I promise. If something happens, I'm like, it's all your fault.
You talked about losing your daughter and you talked about losing your pregnancy, and then you talked about mentally declining and then, being a recluse. How did you deal with that? And what did you do to cope? And what was that process like to heal?
Well, because it had happened before, but that was a different situation. But those are my dogs. Don't worry. It's not a, hey, there was a lot of anger there, because looking back, I feel like I blamed her or its father for putting me in a stressful situation. Now, when I met him, we were both very young, and we didn't have social media and had outlets. And, like I'm from a time where you don't talk about your feelings and you just bury them, deal with them and move on. But I was so mad and bitter, and I was like blaming him. And so we had split up, and I moved away, and there was also a part of me that like blamed him for not feeling the hurt that I felt. And like, still to this day, like we don't talk about it. It's not something, which, I mean, there's really nothing to delve into at this point. It was like, I kind of took it as, things happen, God has a plan for everybody. I feel like everyone's lives are already kind of, or things that are meant to happen will happen. You know what I'm saying? If it's meant to be that way, it will be that way. If it's not meant to be that way, it's not going to be, you know what I mean? And I kind of looked back on it like it wasn't the right time for her to be with us. And had I had her, my daughter today wouldn't be here. Not that I am picking one over the other, just saying it. Once I accepted it and I was no longer angry because it was no one's fault. But at that point, I wanted to blame somebody. I was really ticked off. So, of course, with anybody, it's easy to blame somebody else. It's easy to put it on someone so you don't have to take that on alone. You know what I mean? And I think the anger is kind of what made me spiral, that I felt like I was doing it alone and that there was no one hurting with me. Not that I would want someone to hurt with me, but you know what I mean? Like, but I'm definitely healed from it. And honestly, it might sound crazy, but thinking that it was her that was around kind of healed it in a way. And maybe that was the point. And maybe now that I am, once I acknowledged that in my head, acknowledged that it was her that was here, she was forcing me to acknowledge it. She was forcing me to deal with it because it was kind of, in a sense, put in my face to be like, yeah, deal with this. Stop burying it. You know, what happened, happened. And there shouldn't be any bitter feelings because it was no one's fault. So even though it was a negative, bad, sad, horrible thing, I kind of looked at it like it turned out to be, at this point, like it's a healed, good thing that I have been able to accept and no longer hold any kind of bitterness in my heart, you know?
I've always liked the idea that challenges and hardship makes you a lot stronger because it forces you in situations where you're uncomfortable, and then you have to problem solve and overcome uncomfortable emotions and thoughts. And you know, they always say the weakest people are always the most comfortable. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, you know?
Right.
Obviously,
could go both ways. I don't know.
It's a catch-22. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable. Nobody wants to deal with an awkward, uncomfortable situation. So it's like, you know, you just got to deal with what life throws at you. There is the famous case called the Hell House, and it was purchased by Zach Baggage. You might know of it. It also was in Illinois. Latoya Amons, I believe. Yeah, that was straight up.
I didn't know it was in Illinois.
Of course, I'm sure some comment warriors going to be like, that's not right. But whatever, right? Yeah, that was
check your facts.
Yeah, that was full on demonic activity in that house, and it's often accompanied by this weird, like, viscous liquid on the walls that appears for whatever reason. Well, I don't know if it was like really like viscous or if it was kind of like more gelatinous. But I interviewed a gentleman. I mean, it was back in 2023. But anyway, he was on These Woods Are Haunted. His name's Ben Regal. And he went out into the woods, and before his series of events happened, he found this strange kind of like transparent gelatinous just goo on the ground. And he's like, what the heck? Well, that happened before his sightings and experiences. I interviewed another gentleman, and he had some crazy stuff happen in Alamosa, Colorado. That place is wild. Well, anyway, his dog, I guess, you know, he had a bunch of stuff happen to him too, but during those series of events, his dog rolled in the same, like this kind of like gelatinous, like goop, and it stunk like death, like rotting flesh. So anyway, I mention those things because I don't know if you think, based on everything you experienced, if it was interconnected at all. I believe it is, based on what I know.
Want me to do the scratch and sniff?
I mean, what do you think? Why do you think it appeared there? Why there? You know, why only the one time?
You know what? I don't know how long it had been there. I never, like, it wasn't there when we moved in, because my mom bought all these, they're called duck house dolls. They're like the porcelain creepy dolls. And she bought all these dolls for my daughter, and I put those daughters right in my closet because there's like a shelf. And so the dolls were up there next to the Raggedy Ann and Andy dolls. And then they were just kind of forgotten about. And then, you know, fast forward, I'm hanging out with my girlfriend who's like, oh, the whole paranormal thing. And she's like, since the day I walked into your house, she's like, I've had a bad feeling about your closet. Never did I investigate it, you know? The weird thing about my closet, if you go in my closet and you yell, you cannot hear it. You can't hear people at all. Like, even someone in my room, if you go in my closet and yell, the person in my room cannot hear you. It's the craziest thing. But it was that night that happened. I'm like, let's go investigate it because I'm not going to do it by myself. And when she was there and I started just kind of looking behind things, moving stuff around, or because I think I grabbed the Raggedy Ann doll and I'm like, oh, look, this is what it is, you know? And that's when I was like, wait, what is on the wall? And then I look at the doll and I see it on her head. And I'm like, there's no way it came from the doll to the wall or from the wall to the doll because she's in plastic. And I should have sent you the picture before we started this so you could see it. But it's just like the way that it's on the wall. It's almost like it starts dripping, hits a line, spreads out, and then drips more, and then stops. And then that's all that's there. And I don't know. I don't know what it could have came from, where it's still there to this day, because I'm not touching it. I don't want to mess with it. I'm like, we're just going to leave it there. But it's dried on the wall. Yeah, it's just sitting. So I don't know when or how it would have gotten there. It's not like I smashed a bug and it, you know what I mean? I don't have a clue what it could have came from. There's nothing in there that there's no like food up there or anything. But I did notice actually today when I went to take the picture of it, that on one of the boxes of the dolls, there's like, it looks like a shoebox almost, where the top closes. There's like the mark like this, but that box isn't by that spot. And even if that box was by the spot is way above. The box is only maybe this tall, and the spot would be, if you were to push that box against the wall, the spot would be above it. You know what I mean? So it just, I don't know what it came from. And I don't know, there's no liquids in the top of my closet. And once I put those things up there, they haven't moved. So I can't explain it. It makes no sense. Yeah.
Is that like on Google Maps? Like, can you actually see that? Or is that just like, it's out in the field, it's unmarked?
Well, we found it. How did I think she found it. She was trying to send directions to somebody. You can see, it says like the name in the cemetery, doesn't show the address. Oh, I forgot. There was another thing on the property. I'll send it to you first so you can look at it to see if you see it, because people see it and other people don't see it. There was a fire that we had on the property, and what I can see clearly, like a serpent's head kind of coming around the fire, because there was a tenant on the property, and he had found a water moccasin, what he thought was a water moccasin, and he killed it, and he saved it for us to see it. And I'm like, why does it look so, I'm like, maybe it ate a bullfrog or something. I'm like, let's try to save the bullfrog considering you killed it. And which really irritated me, but we tried to cut the snake open, and she was full of babies and she was pregnant. I'm like, oh my God. I was so mad. Well, he threw it into a fire in this burn barrel. It's all these fires. And when I looked back at the pictures, I'm like, I can see, like, it looks like a serpent's head coming around the fire with its mouth open. I was like, you guys screwed up. I'm like, you should have never done that. Because, like, I have tarantulas, I have spiders. I'm like, I'm not afraid of that stuff. There's copperheads down there. There's water moccasins. And I try to, because people down there, like, a dead snake is the only kind of snake there should be. And I'm like, you have to educate yourselves, first of all. I'm like, if you're afraid of snakes, I get it, whatever. It's not my thing. But don't just go smashing water snakes because you think they're water moccasins. And then you just killed one that was pregnant. And I'm like, just move it somewhere. I mean, that's just me. Maybe because I rehab wildlife.
You don't go into the African savannas and like, oh, we got to kill the lions. They're no. Mm-hmm. You're going to their homes, so you got to know, have respect. Like, okay, I could die, but it's by my own choosing.
Don't go there. Like, I'm going to go swim in the ocean, but I'm afraid of sharks. And like, you see stories all the time where someone gets eaten by a shark and then they go kill the shark. It's like, you walked into their bedroom. If someone walked into your bedroom that wasn't welcome there, what are you going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would it be rightful if someone came and then took you out because you took out someone who walked into your bedroom? No, that's not fair. Like, it's not their fault. They're just cruising around where they're supposed to be, and you walked up on them. Just be more careful, watch what you're doing, and leave them alone.
They're hanging out, having a good time.
Now, if they come in my house, that's another story. I mean, I'm still not going to kill it, but I'll remove it.
Fair game.
Yeah.
You talked about having premonitions and similar dreams and visions when you were younger. Has that affected your sensitivity to the paranormal at all throughout your life? I
don't think the two are related, but I can control my dreams. As an adult, I can control my dreams, which I thought everybody could do that. And apparently it's not very common. But like, in a dream, it's probably my ADHD. In my dream, I'm like, I'm dreaming and I realize I'm dreaming. And then I'm like, let's control it. And then like, I'll go fly or like, I'll go do something that I know I can't do here. But I don't necessarily believe that that has like transferred over into like anything paranormal. I mean, there was an instance when my grandma had first passed away and I was in bed and I have like a ceiling light fan and there's like 4 lights on it. Right. And I had woken up and I look up and the lights were illuminated, but not turned on. It looked like someone was shining a flashlight onto the light bulbs, if that makes sense. And I'm like, who is outside? So I look out because there's another window behind my bed and I look out. I'm like, there's no one there, but I'm looking at the lights and there's like a light on the lights on each. There's 4 separate ones. And I'm like, that's really weird. And I all of a sudden had this really overwhelming fear. Like I got really scared. And like I said, my grandma had just passed away and I'm like, I don't know what it was, but I just felt really, really scared. And I'm like, Grandma, if you are there, I'm like, please protect me. Please. I'm like, whatever I had said. And then it kind of transferred into like a sleep paralysis thing where I'm like screaming, nothing's happening. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of, when I saw the lights, I did physically get up and look out the window. So I know that wasn't, I think I had laid back down, started to fall back asleep again, and then kind of had the sleep paralysis thing where I was like, oh my God, because I had this overwhelming feeling of being scared. And I'm like, Grandma, I need you, like, please, whatever. And then it was like one by one, each light like kind of turned off. They weren't illuminated anymore. But then I had this even more overwhelming feeling of being scared because it's a sleep paralysis thing. I'm halfway dreaming, halfway asleep. And I can see this black like fog coming at me. And I'm like, oh my God, Grandma, I'm like, if you are there, if you're listening, please protect me, please save me. And then the next thing I know, it was like I was lifted up off of my bed and I'm looking down at myself. And then all of a sudden it was like I was whooshed out of the room. And I was like, okay, was that my grandma like kind of taking me out of that situation? I mean, I know I wasn't, obviously I didn't get lifted up and whisked out of my bed, but in my head that was kind of, it was weird because that next day I was telling my daughter about, she's like, I couldn't sleep last night. My son couldn't sleep that night before. Like no one had gotten good sleep that night. And it was like, what is going on in the house? Like there was just a very negative thing in the house. But that's the only time I've ever had like a dreaming situation or like premonition kind of situation where they transferred like kind of crisscrossed, you know? But having the dream, like the premonition dreams, that was more like when I was younger. I haven't really had, I actually had a dream about my girlfriend last night who's pregnant and she had lost her last one. And I had a dream about her last night. Now that we're talking about it, just made me think about it. But I'm like, it wasn't anything bad, wasn't anything good, but I'm like, I'm just now dreaming about her and it's not going one way or the other, but now she's active on my mind. So now I'm going to start dreaming about her, but you know, like things like that. But the actual dream where I saw what happened, those only happened when I was younger. Wish those would happen now that it's probably a little more relevant.
What is scariest cases or stories that really captivated you? And there's a caveat to this question. What also made you want to reach out to share what you had?
So it was either the moment that I thought I saw the girl next to my bed. I don't think I've ever been that scared in my life other than when the thing happened that I had just told you about with the lights on the ceiling. And it was like an overwhelming, but now thinking about it and talking about it, there's nothing in my life that has happened in the actual physical world that has made me as scared as I was in those moments where they may not have actually even happened. But in my mind, they did happen. Some things could be chalked up to other sounds or, you know, this or that or whatever. But when that happened, when there was someone standing next to my bed, I saw it. I know I wasn't dreaming. I know that that is real. Like that happened. I'm not crazy. You know, that was real. And it honestly, that was the last time that I'd like seen her. You know what I mean? There may have been like shadows here and there, but that was like her walking past my room. Even then I wasn't scared when I saw a little girl, maybe because in my head, I thought it was my daughter, But even once I realized that wasn't my daughter, I still was not scared. I was not afraid of that. But when the thing was next to my bed, because I could see it moving along my bed, and I know I wasn't sleeping because I was up on my knees swinging into the air. So that was pretty frightening. It's scary that the paranormal is scarier to me than real life things. And I don't want to say real life as if the paranormal isn't real life, because for some people it is, like for me, it is. I see these things, I hear these things. Other people have witnessed these things along with me. So it wasn't something that my brain was concocting. But like for my son, he doesn't believe in that kind of stuff. He doesn't, ever since he got his shirt tugged on, I think maybe he's kind of more or less listening in a sense. He just he sent me a video a couple weeks ago of his dog was staring at something in his kitchen, and he FaceTimed me and he's like, I don't know what he's looking at, but he will not stop looking. And he's like, I went over there. There's no reflections. There's no shadows. He's like, so maybe that situation has kind of opened his eyes a little bit, but there are people who are like, it's not real. There's no way. It's impossible. It's like, well, it's happened. It is very possible. You just have to be open to it. Like you have to allow it to happen. Otherwise it won't, it's, some people believe you die and that's it. And that everything turns black. Well, then there's people who don't think like that. So, which that's me. I definitely don't think that that's what happens. So I hope it's something great, but I hope it's not black. That's horrible. Just as nothingness. I don't want that. Have you ever seen the movie, the one with Robin Williams? Where his wife, or he dies, and then, oh my God, it's my favorite movie. Why can't I think of it? I'm having a total brain fart. I keep wanting to say What Lies Beneath, but that's not it.
Pull that up.
What Dreams May Come.
Oh, Dreams May Come. Gotcha.
Have you seen that?
Oh, yes. I haven't seen this movie in a long time. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize. Oh my gosh, I'm getting chills because I remember oh man, I forgot about that. I had would remember the scene sometimes, and I had no idea what movie it was attached to, but he goes down to hell and he has to go find his wife, and his wife's in that weird room, and she's all like, help me, or whatever it was. And now
she was in her own version of hell. Yeah,
her own torment. Yeah. I don't, I didn't realize that was the movie. Yes. Okay. I'm seeing the images now. Yeah. Yes. He's in heaven and everything's paint. And it's
that's his heaven. That's what I feel like. That's what happens. What makes you happy and gives you strength and whatever in this world, I believe that's where you go when you pass. And if you think how she thought or did what she did, that hell, I don't think is this big fiery place. And there's, someone standing there, shooting beams out of his horns. I think hell for people is their own personal hell. Watching it now, as I'm older, it's a whole, and especially you doing the channel and hearing all these stories and stuff, it really, hits you and it punches you in the feelers for sure.
It's interesting you talk about these things because about the obvious phenomena, NDEs, but I don't think that's an accurate term because near death. That was weird.
I heard that.
Yeah, that was weird. Okay. All right.
I was like, is that here or there? I'm like, just kidding.
Near death isn't accurate. These people actually clinically die for, a minute plus. Mm-hmm. So this really is should just be a DE, a death experience. Mm-hmm. But I digress. I understand why it's called that. But beside that, you listen to some of these and they're really interesting. But regardless of how the person dies, the consciousness still exists, regardless of whether it's in the body or not. We're not just a giant thing of chemicals that just stops. But playing the devil, I can't even talk. I'm going to play the devil's advocate for a second. Yeah. There was a gentleman I spoke to a while back. He had died. I want to say it was for 9 minutes. And he saw nothing. He said it was just black. Yeah. So,
I have a story. Same. Yeah.
And
I have.
Yeah. So
my husband died too. He had asthma. This only happened because he didn't listen to me. He had a bad cough. And I'm like, this is not normal. something is wrong. I came home. He was on all fours out on the deck, took his shirt off. He's like, I just need cold air. I just need cold air. And he's like, I can't catch my breath. And I'm like, he's the kind of guy who's like, oh, I don't need to go to the doctor, blah, blah, blah. And he told me to call 911. I'm like, if he's telling me to call 911, that's bad. So I called 911. Ambulance came and got him. He said it felt like there was an elephant sitting on his chest. The EMTs, allegedly, I wasn't there, I don't know, were saying, you're just having a panic attack. Just take a couple breaths. Well, that was the last thing he remembers. And that happened at the end of my road. The hospital is 20 minutes, 30 minutes away in an ambulance, maybe 15, 20. He had died at one point in the ambulance and they resuscitated him because when I got to the hospital, I walk in, I have no idea what's going on. I didn't realize, I thought he was just going to be like on a breathing machine watching the Bears game. No, that is not what happened. Every doctor and nurse in that hospital was working on him. And they had said that he had, obviously they didn't tell me till later because they didn't want me to worry, but he had died at one point and they brought him back. So I'm like, what did you see? What happened? And he's like, nothing. It was black. Or they put him in a coma. But he said nothing. He's like, he closed his eyes, woke up 6 days later and then was back to, I mean, he was on a lot of heavy medication. So he was seeing some stuff, but that was just because of the medication. But yeah, he said same thing. He saw nothing. So, but then I've also seen where people, have those experiences and they see a whole light of things. That's kind of how, because of his experience, I'm like, okay, well, maybe if you don't believe, that's what you see. You know what I mean? And if you do, like, maybe we not predict, but we kind of call what our end life is going to be like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or what our end scene is going to be like.
Yeah, it is really interesting as well that, from all the different, I wanted to say stories that I've come across, but people's stories that I've watched and I've seen talking about heaven, hell, purgatory, this, that. There are a couple like similarities between like, the good, bad, the ugly, but there's never like one cookie cutter, like, oh, this or this or this or this. It is very personalized. And I'm not saying like that's a definitive thing, but I'm just saying it is interesting to me that nobody has the exact same experience, even when it comes to seeing Jesus or even when it comes to going to hell. And I don't know why that is, but there are similarities in terms of, and I want to say this is actually probably just about everybody that did die and that talks about having an out-of-body experience, is that it's as real as us talking. It wasn't a dream sequence. It wasn't like, oh, I was having a vision. No, like it's you are very aware of everything around you, that you're like, wow, like what's going, like what, why is my body there? Like I'm right here. How is this possible? No, I'm saying, it's weird. And that's gotta be a trip. And then to be in a strange place. And I feel like for me, the weirdest thing would be to not only like not know where you're at, but then to be fully conscious of like your life on earth. Like, oh yeah, my family, my friends, I have a job, I have a career, like I have stuff I got to get done today at 3 p.m. It's just like, where am I? Like, I need
that
to
would
get back.
be me.
Yeah,
right.
How did I get here? So like, that to me is probably the weirdest, or the most frightening thing. And, something with death that always bothers me is regardless of what you believe or don't believe, the fact that everyone who's ever died, they're like, oh, my daughter, my son, my mom, my dad is still up on earth wondering what happened to me, that I never, like that's a heavy pill to swallow,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I just realized right now as we're having this conversation, you never hear about, or at least I haven't, or like seen documentaries where there were near-death experiences where people saw hell. You hear about near-death experiences where people see heaven. And again, maybe it's just me, but I've never heard or seen on documentaries or anything of experiences where people had a near-death experience where they were almost going to go to hell. You know what I mean? Like they've had the experience where they saw this bright light and people that they've known, but I've never heard of one. Maybe because it's like, if that's the path that you're going, maybe that you don't have the opportunity to go back. You know what I mean? Like The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Did you see that?
No, I'm aware of it though.
You have to watch it, especially for the end, because it was kind of like, I mean, I don't want any, like, everybody under the sun has probably seen it besides you, but I don't want to give you any spoilers in case you do see it. I'm just saying, like, the way that the scene plays out, it's just so like, whether you're religious, not religious, whatever, doesn't matter, atheist, whatever.
Yeah.
The way that scene plays out, it's so moving and like overwhelming. And it's like, wow, I feel like that is an actual, it kind of just like solidifies any stories that you may have heard where they do see a big bright light. And then what after that light? What happens after that light? You at least got to watch the end scene. You got to at least watch the cliff notes or read the cliff notes and then watch the end scene. You know what I mean? Because it's so, the way that they did it is so incredible. Like, it's pretty moving. So you should check it out. I highly recommend. So now you have 2 movies. You got to do the What Dreams May Come Again, and then the Exorcism Emily Rose, at least the end part. You got to watch it. It's very enlightening.
You know, probably some of the trippiest ones that I've watched or read or just come across is the ones where people go out of their body, and instead of going to either location, like they're taken to like some far off place and like they meet entities and they're like shown the galaxy or like shown like their future past, like just weird like sci-fi stuff like that. There's a few that come to mind. I can't remember the names of the individuals, but there's one gentleman who's an atheist, and I don't remember how he died or how long he was dead, but you know, long story short, he was clinically dead for a period of time. Basically was explained through his experience that, yeah, that we are not to sound new age, but we are basically eternal beings. Just, you know, the spirit can't be destroyed unless it's, you know, by a creator. So really outside these bodies, it's just existence just keeps happening. So it's kind of wild to think about, like, huh.
I've definitely changed the way that I've lived or that I've behaved over the course of maybe the last 10 years. Like, you'll see videos or you'll see people talking like, oh, I opened the door for somebody and they didn't say thank you and F them, whatever. And it's like, well, did you open the door for them to get that thank you? Or did you open the door for them because you genuinely just wanted to open the door for them? Like people who do charities and they film it. It's like, you should behave the way that whether someone's looking or not, you know what I mean? Like, you should just be a good person. And that's kind of how I live. And it's like, you know, hopefully one day it comes back around, or that's when I'm being judged, or whether I'm in a fiery whatever, which I don't think so. I've been a pretty good person, but I feel like people should just be nice to be nice. Don't do it because you want something in return. Like if I hold the door for somebody and they don't say thank you, I'm like, I didn't do it for my pleasure. I did it to be nice, to hold the door. You know what I mean? Just because I don't expect anything. I don't expect that treatment in back. And people will say, you know, to earn respect, you got to get respect. Well, I'm going to respect people either way. I don't do things for something in return. Like I rehab baby squirrels. There is zero return. If anything, it's just additional stress. And I try to live my life like, okay, well, because of man, their mother was killed or whatever the reason, I'm putting them back where they belong. I get zero enjoyment because most of the time they make me want to rip my hair out because they're not fun. When you rehab, they're not all cuddly and, oh, baby. And no, you feed them, put them back. You want them to be mean. It's not fun to get bit. Like, the point is to put them back into the wild so they can live the best life possible and not have people walk up to them and they're like, oh, human, yay. Because guess what? Not everybody's nice. You know what I mean? So there is zero return for being nice in that sense. But again, I'm going off on a tangent, but because of all the things, the documentaries and all these things that I've seen, it's like, you know, I'm just going to be nice just to be nice. Like, I don't care if someone says thank you when I open the door. It's not why I did it. You know what I mean? I wish that like everybody would kind of think that way. And the world is so convoluted now with social media and all these things that maybe I was just born in a different time. I don't know. Maybe I'm in the wrong body.
What year were you born?
79.
You're an X.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So there's this thing.
Not a boomer.
There's this thing going around that people talk about, the millennial mole. I was born in 90, and they're like, yeah, so apparently like millennials, like a lot of millennials have like this mole that's like right here in your arm. And I'm like, what? I look down, I'm like, I have it. It's really weird. I don't know why, but a lot of people do. It's really weird. It's like right here.
I have a mole right here, but I'm in 79. Well, you can't see it, but there's a mole
then you
right
probably
there.
got it. Yeah.
But I was 79.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe I'm in the wrong body.
I know people say, well, it's just a mole. You're right. It is just a mole. But the fact that like a lot of people from that same age have a mole like in that spot, like I don't have it on this, I don't know. There's just certain spots in my body I don't have it. So I'm like, I don't know. You just start to wonder like this is weird. It's weird,
My daughter and I have a mole on our ankles, which is really weird. Like you can't see, but like right on the top of my ankle, she has the exact same one in the same spot on the same foot. And it's weird that she's got the same one. And I'm like, you don't really see moles on like an ankle, like on the front of your ankle, like foot goes up like right there. And she's got the same one. I'm like, maybe she was born in the wrong time. I don't know.
You ever think about that kind of stuff? Like is it the Mandela or Mandela effect? What do you think about that?
Is that where, oh no, I'm thinking Glitch in the Matrix.
That too. Yeah. Let's touch upon both those.
You know what? I have to say, I feel like I experienced a glitch in the Matrix, and because I try to see both sides of everything. So I play devil's advocate in every situation because I'm like, you have to think of it from both sides. So anytime I would see one, like the Fruit of the Loom thing that went around, I was like, I don't remember, but it was the Casey Anthony case, and this could just be me. I specifically remember that when they found her, there was duct tape on her mouth with a kiss mark on it. Anything you Google, it does not come up. You cannot find anything. At least I haven't been able to. Of course, when I started looking into it, it was a couple years ago, but they just stopped talking about the duct tape with the kiss mark on it. And I was like, I know that happened. I remember watching it on the news that she was found with duct tape on her mouth. I think because I watched a documentary that came out about it. And they didn't mention it once. And that's what made me start to look into it. But on my Facebook memories, a thing popped up where it was like, just like a clip of picture of Kaylee. And it was like, as if she was talking, my name is Kaylee Anthony, my mom, blah, 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 blah. I was found with duct tape over my mouth with a kiss sticker on it or something. And I was like, so I screenshot it. I'm like, this is the only evidence that I have seen that I know I saw this. So maybe it was just me. I don't know. But the Mandela effect, I always mix the two up. So what's the difference?
So a glitch in the Matrix is kind of like it describes itself. It's where you see something or experience a phenomena that by our own laws of physics just doesn't make sense. Whether you see, experience, feel, touch, right? Something that shouldn't be there, something that like it just doesn't. Perfect example would be like seeing a dog run across the street and then all of a sudden like it just, vanishes right in front of you. Or like it would like run behind a tree and then just disappear. You're like, wait, what? Like how is that possible?
Yeah.
Or like people's
what just happened?
There was a video, well, again, you can't trust video unfortunately, but I remember there was a video somebody posted, but this was like years ago. But again, you could still mask stuff out, so whatever. It was like a branch, but it was like just like it wasn't connected to a tree. It was really weird. But again, take it with a grain of salt. So just stuff like that.
Right.
The biggest Mandela effect, the two of them that really bothered me were because when I was little, my parents got me a lot of the Berenstain Bears, and it was all I know for a fact it was Berenstain, and I know that because when I got older and I kind of got more into music, there's the Steinway pianos, and I remember when I kind of learned about that, I made that connection. I was like, oh, like Berenstain, because like that. Oh, and then I realized, oh, well, that must be like a German thing. Well, come to find out that is. So later on in life, it was like people were like, no, it's Stain. I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. People will say, well, it doesn't exist. Not that, but the whole Mandela thing. It doesn't exist. It was a psyops. It's false memories. Normally, I would agree with you, but I wholeheartedly disagree because I'm not the only one. There's thousands of people. And the other thing I was going to say, too, was the Ford logo. I haven't experienced that myself, but multiple people have talked about there's like a little tail or something that was in the F of the Ford logo. If I'm not, well, let me fact check myself to make sure I'm not just like making stuff up. But Ford logo.
I have to ask my dad. He's had a lot of really old cars, so I'll ask him. Yeah. I don't think I've heard of that one.
Yeah. No. That there was the little on the Capitol. There's a little like loop.
Like on the top of the F.
On like the dash. On like the dash of the F. Not the dash. I'm sorry. The line that goes to the F. There's like a little
right. I know what you're saying.
And growing up,
let me look this up.
Yeah.
So Ford logo, I mean, the Mandela effect and glitch in the Matrix are pretty similar. Like, would my situation with the Casey Anthony thing, would that be a glitch in the Matrix, or would that be, so Mandela effect is you remember something a certain way, and that's not apparently how it was. But a glitch in the Matrix is like exactly what it says, like some tweaks, like it shouldn't do that, like in the movie Matrix, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically
Ford logo.
That apparently a bunch of people have these false memories somehow.
Right.
And
okay. Oh, what? Wait, are they saying that it did have a loop in it? I don't think it ever had that loop.
I don't know.
But then again, if you think about it, like the Pontiac symbol or the old Cadillac symbol, like the V, like it looks like the, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just like the similar Pontiac symbol today looks like the old Cadillac, but no one, well, maybe just because I'm old as dirt, but they're definitely the old Cadillac symbol looks like the Pontiac symbol of today.
Also the Volkswagen symbol. They're saying that there was that. No, it was always stacked. It's weird. There's a bunch of people that's why it's a whole thing. It's weird.
I was going to say, I feel like I remember it with the gap in it.
What?
But then again, I've never really looked at it. So
I found this Reddit thread where somebody showed the Ford logo and it has the loop on it. And this person says, how is this possible? A Ford logo has changed. When I was little, I remember the Ford logo without the swirl on the F. My granddad's old truck has been sitting in our backyard for years, and it's probably from the late 90s or early 2000s. When I looked at it, I saw the Ford logo that looks like the logo today without the loop. I don't remember it looking like this. Does anyone remember the F without the swirl? And clear as day, there's the little loop in it. And then someone...
I'm going to ask my dad because he had an old Ford. My dad has had old cars. He's got like a 1942 something right now. Actually, you know what? I have an old 1938 Ford tractor in my garage right now.
It should have it. So in
I'm like, oh my God.
In 1912, the symbol is a little bit different, but the loop was there. And then in 1927, the Ford logo looks almost identical to what it is now with the loop. It's there. And that stayed 1957. It changed again. The loop has never gone away, and changed again in 1976 and 2003. And guess what? The loop is still there. So
they're saying the loop is on there now?
No, they're saying that that's a false, that's not, no, that the Ford logo has always not had that loop in it, that it's always just what it is now. Like if you just Google Ford logo, you'll see it doesn't have the... Yeah. So it's like...
I have to check that tractor now.
What's happening?
What?
I don't know.
I see the little loop.
Yep, it's weird.
I don't think I buy that at all. Oh gosh, I have to look up that tractor. I mean, I have to go look at that tractor and see what it says because that's an old tractor.
But it's a bunch of stuff. So another big one too is the Star Wars. You know, the famous Luke, I am your father. But it's not that. It's Luke, I am not your father. Or Luke. It wasn't I'm your father. It was like it's different. It's like Luke something. I
just saw that one too recently. I can't remember. Now you got to look it up because now you're gonna be like, nope, I got to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm like, here we go. Luke, I'm your father. Yes, that's the line. But Darth Vader actually says, no, I am your father. So have we just been conditioned through like pop culture that like the phrase was Luke, I am your father?
I thought that's what he said. That's what I've always said when I was mocking it. Okay, so either way, it's I am your father, whether or not he says, no, I am your father, or Luke, I am your father. That's what this pulled up.
I thought that's what it was too. The only thing I could make of that is that when the movie came out, pop culture took a hold of it, and you know, everyone's just kind of been regurgitating the Luke, I'm your father line, and so that just got stuck in your head. Because I feel like throughout life, more people hear that than they do the actual like quotation from the movie. I mean, that would make sense, but I don't know. But then that doesn't explain.
You know what I think we're thinking of is that movie where he was in the fan, and what movie was that? He was like mocking Star Wars, and he was like talking in a fan, and he's like, Luke, I am your... What movie was that now?
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh my God. Now that's going to drive me nuts. Now you have to Google that.
So James Earl Jones, the person who played Darth Vader's voice in the original, he even remembered it being Luke, I'm your father. Really weird.
This whole thing is
Tommy boy.
What's this? See? I knew it.
I didn't come up with that though. This found it though.
Oh,
Yeah.
at least you found it, because it was literally going to drive me absolutely insane until we figured it out. Because I can't, like, when I watch TV, we just watched the movie Warfare the other day. My son's like, do not touch your phone, because I am like, I have to know where I saw that actor from. I know I've seen that actor somewhere. Where have I seen him? I have to Google do their whole
IMDb,
whatever that is. Yes. Yes. I have to figure out why that person looks familiar. What did I see them in? When did I see them? But it makes for great conversation when I just spit out these random like facts and people are like, how do you know so much random crap about random crap? Like, a squirrel's bite force is the strongest bite force in the animal kingdom per body size, 7,000 pounds per square inch. And I'm sure people are like, that's not right. Per body size, body mass, a squirrel's bite force is the strongest, 7,000 pounds per square inch. And I've gotten bitten by one, so I can tell you it's not fun.
Yeah, no, that could leave.
It's like a puncture, just bam.
You've never had any like weird experiences happen in the woods, right? Or have any like weird stuff happen to your friends. So do you go into the woods armed, and are you aware of your surroundings, or at least try to be, in hopes that you don't have anything strange happen to you?
Strange or real?
Both. The entire Southeast is a wild place, man.
Yes.
You know, back when we first were coming over here in like, you know, the 1600s, you know, and as we started kind of, you know, making our way, exploring the French come over here, you know, we're starting to colonize things and make little establishments. They have the Rougarou, right? They have the hairy men, like just all this weird stuff. But there's a lot of people that don't have any experiences for some reason. You know, West Virginia, Arkansas, all that. The whole, it's just like thick bog, just nasty.
Yes.
What do you do to prepare yourself for going into that?
Where our property is, we've had it for a couple of years, but now we're not there full time, obviously. So we're in the short amount of time, like if you were to compress all the time that we've been down there, and I tend to walk around, it like kind of reduces stress for me. There were a couple instances where, I mean, I always exercise my Second Amendment. So let's just say that. But anything that has happened that wouldn't do anything. However, you know, I never want to be in a position where I can't protect my daughter. And that's kind of how I think of it. But anyway, there was a time I was walking, so our property, it like comes up, loops around like a gravel road that kind of goes around. There's 2 pavilions and there's 3 cabins. So it's like little pavilion, big pavilion, and then it goes up the road and then cabin. Okay. And there's kind of a gravel road that loops the whole thing. And sometimes I'll walk that loop. And there was a time where I could hear something in the trees, like aggressively shaking a tree. Like you could see the tree moving. Like it was as if there was like a bear fighting in the tree. Like I could see it. But when you look, I couldn't see anything in the tree moving it. It looked like it was going crazy. And now, mind you, the Appalachian Mountains are like the biggest mountain range that carries that's the most concentrated spot of black bears. Okay. They say there's about 1 per 200 acres. We have 200 acres. So I'm like, great. But I didn't see anything, and I was really looking, and I even used my Snapchat camera to like zoom in really, really far, and I didn't see anything. And then all of a sudden silence. I was like, okay, well, that was odd. Like I do protect myself, but for something that I can't see, you know, but again, down there, I've tried to do a lot of research because there's so much history. I actually found a fossil in like the creek. We have a creek, and I found this. I thought it was like a snake scale fossil. Turned out it's tree bark. However, that tree bark was only in that area between 200 and 400 million years ago. And I found this this fossil of this tree bark. So there's just a lot of history there. In the area, we're very close to Paintsville. And from what I've read, I can't say for sure 100% I wasn't there. But the reason they called it Paintsville, allegedly, is because there were Indians that lived there that would like paint the trees. But they were like cannibal Indians that had painted the trees. Like there's people find arrowheads a lot. There's actually the famous story of like Jenny Wiley. It's not paranormal, but it's pretty interesting to hear about. That actually, I mean, did happen. It wasn't like a ghost thing. It was, these Indians did some pretty messed up stuff to women and children, and she was like the only woman to have escaped. So now there's very close to our property. There's like her grave is actually there. You can visit where I believe it's the log cabin that she lived in after this had happened. I believe she was scalped. I'm not sure. There's so many different like versions of the story, but Jenny Wiley herself was a real person, and these things did happen to her. Like you can find bent trees in the mountains. I'd say that's probably, knowing that lore that these cannibal Indians lived in the mountains is probably scarier to me than like, say, a Bigfoot or, Slender Man or whatever. I actually haven't heard anything about Slender Man, but there's all kinds of stories about the mountains. But I have, in the short time that I've been there, have experienced some things where it was like, that's not normal, but nothing that scared me enough to be like, I'm not going back out there. The bees, now that I know I'm allergic, those scare me more than anything, to be completely honest. So the bears don't scare me. The snakes don't scare me. It's the bees that do it for me, because they're everywhere. Now my next thing, my next hyper focus is to figure out where the cemetery is, because it kind of shows. I didn't actually have it. Turned my alerts off to see if my cousin sent me she didn't see it. But you can kind of see where it may start and where it may end. Now back then they were just farmers. They don't have like headstones, they have like a rock placed where, so we kind of were looking for odd placed rocks that shouldn't be where they are. I just kind of, from the one cabin back to the third cabin, I'm just very respectful of that land right there. I don't want to, I want to be as respectful as possible, but we had actually found out that
he wants to make a guest appearance.
He does. He's such a, like, what are you doing?
Hey, I have three. I honestly, that they're just love. They're just pure love.
They're just, yeah.
Yeah, that's
you
all.
You have many schnauzers, or you have 3 dogs?
3 dogs. I have a,
okay.
One is a Great Pyrenees Lab, and she's very, very vocal. She's a fat pig. A fat pig. Gosh, she makes me so mad, but I love her so freaking much.
Oh.
And then I have another one who's a rescue. He's a Neapolitan Mastiff. He is the biggest simp little boy I've ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's how we had a pit bull that was a rescue, that he was like stolen from a fighting ring, and he looked so just gnarly. He was huge and just muscle, and but he wouldn't fight, so they used him as a bait dog. And they like scratched his cornea, so he was blind, totally blind, but he was the biggest baby. He was petrified of everything. And we had a Chihuahua. When people would come over, I'm like, she's the one you got to worry about, not him. And he had like scars everywhere. He just looked like he got thrown in a blender. But he was super big and beefy. Like he looked stereotypical pit bull mean, but he was same thing. Biggest baby in the world.
And he'll like force himself up on the couch, and you're trying to like, get off.
Yeah. They don't realize how big they are. They're like, oh, well, because they don't see mirrors. So they see the little dogs, and they're like, well, that's how big I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they act accordingly.
They just want to snuggle. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, for sure. As much as I love it, he, don't eat your sister's food. I never thought I'd be the kind of person that would own mini schnauzers, but you have to be a certain kind of breed of human to own. And I'm actually very shocked that we haven't heard them bark, because they talk like constantly. And I'm like, it's crazy that we haven't heard them this whole time. Like, I'm very shocked.
That's
maybe
awesome.
They understand.
Yeah.
It's a good thing though, right? Yeah.
No, it's awesome.
Oh, geez. Well, we actually found out at our property that it's like a common dumping ground for dogs. Because it's been vacant for so long that people just drop off dogs there. Like every time we go down there, I come back with dogs. It's like, my mom got a dog from down there. I just brought back this last trip 5 puppies plus these two in my car. So many different things have happened. And I know it sounds insane and people are like, there's no way. And it's like, I hand to God, these things have happened and they've kind of dissipated a little, which maybe I'm hoping that now that we're talking about it, it'll kind of come back around, but maybe only if it's in a good way. But yeah, I'm sure there's going to be something that I think of that I totally forgot. But, you know, I was telling, anytime I was talking to somebody about this, I was like, you know, when we had talked about doing this and I had checked the channel, I'm like, I think when I first started following or subscribing to you, or maybe I had watched you for a while, I think there were like 10,000 subscribers or something. And then I had subscribed and I'm like, holy cow, it's grown so much. It's like so incredible that it's gotten as far as it has. Like I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you.
Thanks, bro. Virtual
it's
high
awesome.
five.
Yeah. There we go. With my luck, I would hit the computer and fall backwards and it'd be a big mess. But yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I'm flattered that you wanted to do this. It's cool. I'm excited.
Well, you reached out a while ago and I was like, I've had a few people like that and it was kind of just like, hey, here's a little thing. And then I was like, oh, so I wanted to do interviews for a long time and I kind of started to dip into it. And then I was like, well, they're a lot of work and how I was doing in them. And I'm like, this isn't sustainable. And I'm like, I need to like step back and like really figure this out. So then I found this channel, which I found is really interesting. It's called Diary of a CEO. I love the way that you should check it out if you like interviews, how he like does the interviews, how like everything, how he packages them, how he like asks the question, everything. It was like, wow, like that. That's it. That's the format. And so I'm like, okay, like once I kind of had that locked in, I'm like, all right, like I need to go back through and like actually set all these up and like do it. And now, now it's a thing. So it actually worked out because like basically I want to use what I have, the audience, to like give you guys a platform to tell your experiences. And unfortunately, like I see a lot of these interviews with like, eyewitnesses and stuff. It's got like 200 views. And like, I just watched one the other day. I'm like, dude, like, did you edit this? Like it's shot in StreamYard and like the video starts with him going, testing. I'm like, bro, I'm not going to watch this. Like, this is terrible. Right. And so I'm just like,
one of my icks are like when watching TikTok videos and you see them stop the video, like they're recording themselves and then you see their hand go up and I'm like, edit that out.
Yeah.
Why? Like, really? Just drag it a little further or less, but it drives me nuts when I see little things. Yeah.
And they just don't know.
You think the Gen X, but.
Yeah, well, no, it's older, I think. Like, it's maybe, I don't know, but, like, they don't really seem to, like, know how to, like, keep the conversation flowing, and it's very, like, rigid, and, like, the guests will pause, and they'll kind of just be like, I don't know, that they're just, I'm like, you're not it. Like, you gotta have it or you don't have it. Yeah, you gotta there's a flow you gotta, or at least cut out dead air. Like cut yourself out. Like I didn't come to listen to you. I came here to listen to the person. So you figure it out, Yeah,
I'm trying to, because I'm like, now we have this wedding venue. It's like, do you want to, I don't know if I just did damage by talking about the wedding venue or if that would intrigue people to want to come there.
Yeah, but do you want them coming there to like do investigations? So it's like,
well, so weddings an event venue. So, I mean, it's not just weddings. So, I mean, if there were people who are like in that area and they're like, hey, I know some information about this, or, or maybe just include like the Lost Creek events, like my email address that has Lost Creek events, if they want to contact me that way.
Is that your business email? I assume so.
Yeah. It's the one that I use all the time. So I don't have to like log out, log in, sign out, type thing. Because actually this week we weren't planning on doing this until like next year, but I had gotten in contact with this woman who runs the Knot and Wedding Wire, and we put up a storefront and it was like bam, hit after hit after. I'm like, oh no. And I forgot to add on the website that we're booking now for 2026, and it's like people wanting to come next week, and I'm like, no, wait, no, hold on.
Take a number.
But yeah, anyway. Yeah, right, exactly. So but I do eventually want to have like in the fall, I want to have like haunted hayride type thing. Because remember that loop I was telling you
That'd be
about?
sweet.
It's kind of a longer loop. You know what I mean? I wanted to have like a haunted thing and pumpkin, whatever. There's a lot of acreage to do a lot of things. You know, the wedding thing is just where we're starting, but that's not where we eventually want it to be. So, I mean, this is just the way to make the quicker, money, shorter amount of time to get to where we want to go. Whether like you, because, we were discussing like whether people believe or they don't believe and, the heaven, the hell, and you kind of, you're going to, where you go or where you don't go or whatever. I think if you're more open to situations happening, like if you have a loved one that passes and you're trying to reach out, but you've grown up your whole life thinking that doesn't exist. Well, it's not going to just come to you and be like, oh yeah, here I am in a dream. Like I feel if people want to have those experiences, they just need to be more open-minded to those kind of experiences. And I think that it would come with time. Like, not like you can train yourself to have those experiences, you know what I mean? But like to just open yourself up to it with anything in life. If you're just shut down and closed and it's to an idea or anything, it's not going to happen. But if you open yourself up to it, you got to welcome it in,